Do, 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 do. Hey, sister.
Hey, sister.
Welcome, everyone. If you are tuning in on YouTube or you are listening on your favorite podcast platform, we are so glad you're here. The Sunflower Society podcast is hosted by my beautiful sister, Kara, and myself, the Gonzalez sisters. Just some quirky Midwest gals out here, talking through life. But we've set up this cadence. Listeners, subscribers, longtime supporters, thank you, but we have finally landed, I think, on this cadence of we are a 2-time a month show. So we release an episode every other week. They're usually going to probably be close to hour and a half to 2 hours, but we found that to be probably our sweet spot because it also gives you all time. I know I do that with podcasts. Like, I kind of break it up. So I like when it's not like, a couple times a week or even weekly, because then I can't really keep up with all the episodes. So
I also like when it's like a couple hours long because then I can like have some juice to look forward to. Like if I'm in the middle of one and it's like getting really good, I'm like, ooh, I can't wait to listen to the rest of that one later.
Yeah.
If I don't have, just remember to come back to it though. That's the only thing.
Yeah, and hit subscribe. Hit subscribe on your, or give us a review.
Please.
Whatever.
Go like this.
We're actually gonna do something fun where we look to see if there are any comments or what comments we've received on our YouTube channel.
Oh boy.
As well as is there any place else? We haven't had any call-ins. So that's the other thing, y'all. If you're on the podcast platform, there is a link that you can click and you can leave us a voice message. We would actually love to hear from you. I know our beautiful sister-in-law did that a couple of times when we first started the podcast. It's been exactly 2 years.
Yeah.
A week ago, this is our 2-year anniversary. So but yes, hey Lauren. But I know she did a couple when we first started with just like questions or things that she wanted to ask us about. So we appreciate that, but just wanted to direct. I don't know if we've ever even explicitly said that before.
I think a couple times, but it's been here and there. But
But
we'd love to hear from you.
Hear from you, and like you could be like, hey, can you all talk about this? Or hey,
Or
I
if
had
you're
this
on
situation.
if you're on Instagram, you can send us a voice memo in there and we'll play it on the podcast.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
Justine is at Spiritually Strategic. I'm at Glam Gourmet Home if you don't follow us already.
So I feel like the spring is already going so fast.
It is.
It's
almost like it will be summer before you know it.
I know, and I'm trying not to get myself too excited, but man, when we had those little warm-up days about a week ago when it was 80 degrees. I was like, I'm
close to 80 degrees all week.
Playlist and Spotify, and I was really getting ready for summer. But I can be okay with like April. I kind of like because it reminds me of October. Like it can be a little dreary and cozy still, but it's not so unbearable. You can't just walk outside and go for a walk with.
It's been like in the 70s here all week. Too bad you live by the lake.
Yeah, it's been a little chilly.
It's
a little chillier than that here.
Yeah.
It hasn't been quite that warm. For sure. Like I think it was actually spitting snow in Chicago on Thursday when I was there, and I had on open toe heels. Like, oh, this always happens. Anytime I've been in Chicago in April, that always happens because during the day you think it's supposed to warm up, but man, that
wind.
It's not called the Windy City for no reason. Okay. But I'm super excited. So our sponsor today, guess who it is?
Let me take one guess. I bet I'll get it. It's us.
It's a product. It's
the book, The Lunar Garden.
Ta-da! I'm showing it if y'all are watching. If you're not watching, you can hop over to YouTube to see it. We will link it in the show notes, but it is officially out. I know we talked about it and shared the link to pre-order on our last episode. Stop Self-Sabotage. Go back and listen if you haven't. Great episode. But it's here. I mean, Kara's the lead author. This is really her baby and her genius of analyzing the Farmer's Almanac for you all and just the beautiful graphics. So even if you're not a gardener, I've been telling people like I use it for my goal setting and just kind of denoting specific things with the moon cycles on the calendar pages. And it's a beautiful coffee table book.
I agree.
Yeah. So go visit. You can search the Lunar Garden 2021 on Amazon, or you can visit. We'll link it below. Bit.ly the Lunar Garden / the Lunar Garden. It's a Bit.ly link. So that's our sponsor. Woo! Any other? Are we doing any other shout out? I have a shout out actually, and I'm going to share my screen to do this shout out because I asked her if it was okay. I wanted to highlight really quick our friend Jamel. So I wanted to spotlight her real quick. She already has season 2 of her podcast. I have to get caught up, but the episodes I've listened to have been really inspiring. Her podcast is called Booze Filled to Spirit Filled, Finding Hope, Joy, and Purpose. And so Jamel hosts it. She shares her story and experiences. She's actually, I believe she's working towards she's almost done with her master's in divinity or theology right now. But she had a life filled with alcohol, depression, and anxiety, and she has really shifted because of how good God has been in her life. And so she does talk about Jesus. She is a follower of Christ. And if that's your thing, or you need some inspiration because you're struggling with addiction or just feeling like you can't find your purpose, I have found it to be really inspiring so far. So just wanted to shout you out, Jamel. Anything to add, Kara?
I would just add that she is a beautiful person to talk with, one of the most non-judgmental people I've met in life.
Agreed.
So I'm always attracted to that openness, and she will share her heart and her truth and her story with anyone who is open to that. She's one of those very rare unicorns that you come across that doesn't have anything to hide and will tell you the truth about things. So that's valuable to me these days.
Agreed. And her and I have the same initials, JG.
Yes, you do.
But shout out to Jamel. So happy to see you stepping out and continuing to share your story. And we love being able to see that. And we've been saying it, but we really need to like get together. Well, Kara's been all vaccinated. I did sign up. I made a decision to sign up for the vaccine. I get it the first week of May. So we'll continue to update y'all on that front. But I think, as people are getting more comfortable with spending some time and things are opening up a bit more, we've talked about for a long time, like we all need to just get together and hang out. And I think the other thing, well, I wanted to ask you this actually on the episode, because I would be really curious to get feedback. And you can put it in the comments, or again, send us a voice memo if you want, or DM us, whatever. But Kara and I have really been talking about, well, we're kind of in the process of planning a trip for just the two of us to the motherland, Puerto Rico. But
our motherland.
Yeah, it is the motherland for us, in a lot of ways. But I wanted to ask you, because you were telling me about this experiential travel thing that Becky Robinson, the comedian, is doing. But Kara and I are pondering that. So I just wanted to put it out as a discussion topic real quick here before we go visit the Petty Parlor. Because I wanted to hear more about it. I haven't explored it, and I can pull it up on the internet. Let me get out my crank. Let me get out my crank and turn on the old internet.
You don't have to pull it up.
Okay.
But what we were thinking about is we have lots of friends that we would love to go on a trip with, but this would be kind of like a self-exploration, more spiritually guided trip. Not just like girls' weekend going out, partying, dancing. I mean, there definitely
Girls
be some of
trip.
that, but this would be a very like intentional time to decompress, to grow spiritually, to goal set, that kind of stuff. So we would be looking for like-minded women to come and experience this, um, kind of with us, and we would help kind of facilitate some of the discussions and activities and things like that. So retreat on steroids, really, because it would be more than just like laying around on a beach. It would be really diving in and getting deep with ourselves and with each other and that kind of thing. So yeah, if you are interested in something like that, I'm sure like when we get to the point of planning, we will be advertising and things for it. But if you
Yeah,
have any
and it
ideas
it
or
probably wouldn't be a huge group. So if you have ideas or you have things you want to do, I know one thing for sure that Kara and I would provide to participants. And we're still putting together what this looks like on our website, spirituallystrategic.com, but we're really streamlining what we offer. We have a lot of courses out there. Some of them are pretty complex because, well, Kara and I just kind of tend to be all over the place. But we're trying to be a lot
in
more
the best way
focused.
possible.
Yeah, in the best way possible, but also respond to feedback of what people are saying they really need and what they really want.
You
Um,
ever hear of that expression, throwing things at the canvas and seeing what sticks? That's what we do in like the best way, like, and then rein it back in and kind of like clean it up a little bit.
like
That's the way to do it.
verbal
Yeah.
brain diarrhea, basically.
Yeah. Brain diarrhea.
Brain, yeah. Okay, so back to the trip, but I'm just super excited because it obviously will be a bit of a pilgrimage for Kara and I. Um, and I know we would like to spend time with family and stuff probably before we would host people arriving for a retreat. But yeah, we are looking at January 2022 for that. So just stay tuned. But also, with that being said, the other offering will be a your key to me, a full scale psychological and leadership profile that actually gives you distress patterns, basically everything you could want to learn about yourself, and probably like the equivalent of 3 or 4 years of therapy, in some respects.
Yeah.
But it's a good starting off point for really developing more awareness about your gifts and talents. And that's really our whole mission, whether it's through the Sunflower Society podcast or our company, right? It's kind of one and the same, Spiritually Strategic Co. We want to help people really unlock their passion and their purpose. And our little tagline is ignite your vibe and nourish your soul purpose. Because once you start to discover your soul's purpose too, we have to be actively nourishing that. Like, it's not something that I wake up every day and just say, well, I'll lay in bed and opportunities come to me. Like, just because you've discovered it and you have that aha, or even if you're working currently in your gifts and passions, great. But how are you continuing to nourish that to really expand your impact in the world while you're here? And hence
And
the name
also, how are you
of the
gonna
podcast. Yeah.
how do you weed out some of the things that are taking up like a space in your life that don't need to be there,
Yeah.
that are taking up the space that could be used for for your gifts and talents? Maybe you're giving that time away to something less deserving. So that's
Awesome.
actually a huge problem with a lot of women that we encounter,
Yep.
for ourselves as well. I mean, honestly, that's a wheel that we all get stuck on sometimes. So being able to identify that and attack it in a way that gets it out of there and cleans up the space for you is important. And I think everybody should invest in that way in themselves. It doesn't have to. It can be a painful process sometimes, but it doesn't have to be. You know.
No, and it's easier, right? It's easier. But I'm probably gonna butcher it, but there's an African proverb. It's something to the effect of if you want to go slow, go alone. If you want to go faster, go together.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but and that's something Carrie and I have experienced being a part of, quote unquote mastermind groups or smaller groups of like she said, like-minded women, is who we focus on serving. And honestly, I mean, that's why we started our podcast. This is literally still just our accountability and our check-ins. And we like we're talking through what we're working on in ourselves. And hopefully it's helpful to some of you all. But that's what it's all about. It's not yeah, we have certifications
When we
to
started,
offer you, but it's really about, are you committed to yourself and your own journey here?
and when we started our business, we had a clear vision for that time of how to execute the beginnings of our business, right? But over the last couple of years, that has evolved into, yes, we are educators. Like, we are actually, that is our background in our career path that we originally have chosen, and it has led into this other realm of, yes, we're educators. We know how to do didactic teaching, and we know how to coach people, and we know all those things. We're very good and proficient at those things. However, to allow people to see the background and the back end, this is the back end of our work.
The
So you
messy.
see us, the messy, you see us processing through some things. You see different subjects. If you go back and look at our library of podcast episodes, we have all kinds of shit in there, like all kinds.
And newsflash, we didn't start using actual microphones like we are until maybe about like, I don't know, 10 episodes back.
Yeah.
So please stick with it, even if the sound is a little, I will say that
Sound is great, okay?
it's not. The content's great, but the sound is not always super great. So just bear
It's
with
okay.
it. There's still really great content. So just needed
But
to say.
also, where I'm going with that is, we don't ever want to lead anybody to believe that we're experts at setting boundaries. We're experts at such and such and such and such.
Right.
Like, we're here to teach you all of our wisdom and knowledge because we have it all together. When we talk to you guys about things, we're working through things, and we're talking about things from a place of curiosity. We're talking through things from a place of being vulnerable, because that has been something that's hard for both of us to be,
Agreed.
for different reasons.
Mhm.
And this is a healing journey for both of us, and we just hope that it is impactful to some of you. Some of the things that we're saying, we know we tie in, the Petty Parlor and Go Sage Yourself, and some, pop culture.
Well, we're funny. I think we're kind of
Content.
funny, quirky people, though. Like, we couldn't. We're not just gonna hold back pieces of our identities and personalities. People, like, come on.
Right.
We got to
Right.
show up fully as ourselves, and that includes the fact that Carrie and I really love comedy, and we laugh hysterically at each other. So, I mean,
Over really stupid stuff
yeah,
sometimes.
yeah, exactly. Like, it's almost like we're like teenage boys sometimes, but
Sometimes.
whew.
Praise God, baby.
Did you hear my new sound clip?
What did it say? Something about
I'm trying
baby?
to
that
have,
Thaddeus?
look, watch. I'm trying to have sound bites like on some of these bigger podcasts that actually have legit hired
A soundboard.
videos. Yeah, and they play
Yeah.
the little sound effects. I know we have our music for when we go into the Petty Parlor or Go Sage Yourself, but I'm like, ooh, I want to throw it in and see if Kara can tell me who it is. And I
It's
literally
Thaddeus.
no,
No?
not.
It sounded like him.
Look, so today, anytime you said something, I was gonna try to play this.
Praise God, baby.
Oh, I know who that is.
Who is it?
It's Theo Vaughn.
It is Theo Vaughn. We
Praise
love you,
God,
Theo
baby.
Vaughn. Praise God, baby. But I was watching his most recent episode because man, Kara and I hope everybody understands this. I was breaking this down for one of my guy friends the other day because I do think millennials are the first generation to kind of break that stigma of like, oh, I don't feel comfortable collaborating with my colleague because they're a female or they're a male. Like, I think those traditional things and cultural norms started coming down with Gen X, but I think specifically in our generation, it's become very acceptable. Like, yeah, you can be married and have guy friends, or you can be married and have women who are your friends or colleagues that have become friends. And it doesn't have to be weird. I think Gen Z has shattered all of those type of things of like, oh, I just am who I am. It's whatever. Like,
We just don't even really have a gender.
Yeah, we like to be fluid. Like we don't have labels. And I think that started coming more down like with millennials. Anyways, I'm saying that all to say, I was explaining to one of my guy friends, like, I hope you know when you hear me joke about having an intellectual crush on someone, or I'm like, oh, I love Theo Vaughn. I don't actually like them. Like I'm in a happy relationship, and so is Kara, like with our partners in life. But honestly, Kara and I both said the same thing in particular about Theo. And we talk about him some because we like to watch him because he was one of the first podcasters that Kara introduced me to where I saw somebody literally just talking about their issues in a very raw way.
Yeah.
He also has a relatable story. He's a third culture kid and all that. But I think we both lovingly have been like, no, like I feel like he's like our son, and like we just want to look out for him and make sure he's okay.
Except I'm pretty sure he's like either my age or older. Possibly.
No, he is.
So.
I think he's Thaddeus's age, but it does sound a little bit like Thaddeus on that voice clip.
Baby. No, I like him because he has a very different, like, he has a brain that I think thinks like the same as my brain thinks.
I
like
can
the
see
way
that.
he says stuff, he's very colorful and flowery with his language, and the way he expresses his thoughts is very unique and unconventional. So I like that. I don't think I've ever heard him use like a pop culture rap, like, like
No,
certain
I
phrases
think
that are.
I think he's a person who he truly just lets you see his thought patterns.
Yeah.
And like, well, in education, they use the term mental models. Like he literally just lets you see him processing. And so, and thinking about life and how he sees the world.
That's what's special about him. I don't know that.
Also, well, he'll also openly say like he doesn't understand a lot of things, and I think he's a little ignorant about some stuff, but I think there's some things he asks about, like that's like right now he'll ask like, well, why do some people get canceled and other people don't get canceled? And I get really nervous as a comedian. Am I going to say or do something wrong? And why, like he just asked a lot of questions like that. And I think he genuinely just doesn't understand.
Yeah.
So anyways, we love you, Theo Vaughn, but that was the little sound clip I added to see if I could weave it throughout our episode today.
Praise God, baby.
Okay, so do you have your chandelier? I don't.
Yeah, I do.
Oh, okay. I just I wanted to get ready for the Petty Parlor. I don't want to leave listeners waiting.
Kind of broke in half, but
it's okay.
Yeah, it'll still work.
And in the Petty Parlor, we just take a moment. Usually it's like a pop culture event or a current event or maybe a situation or a product, which by the way, please stay tuned because I still have not created the video. I have all the clips, but I haven't actually created the full video of my personal home sauna. That was one of our products in the Petty Parlor. So sometimes
you've
it's
been
not
using it, right?
Yeah, I love it. It's still great. So I just haven't put together the whole video to upload it. I will. But that, for example, that was something in the Petty Parlor because I thought Kara would think it was hilarious and be like, wow, okay. But she actually really liked it.
It turns out I was thinking about purchasing one for myself before.
Right.
Before you
So
even brought
see,
it
that's why this podcast is so vital to your life, listeners, because you'll hear it here first. Products like a personal home sauna. Okay. Well, there's the intro. I'm gonna get ready to share my screen. I am sipping a local coffee this morning.
I'm really excited about it. Because
about
I'm
my local
curious.
coffee.
No, about what the Petty Parlor.
You didn't see what I was just doing. Now this tumbler I actually love. My coffee is still piping hot like an hour later. I will tell you, this is very good quality. I designed this one from,
Oh, is that a new product on?
It is. So Educator Aid, my
Oh,
company, we started a merch boutique, and I'm trying to get feedback from people, but I'm trying to set up so that a portion of proceeds go back to like open teacher grants. But part of it too, like anything Kara and I do, clearly we're not fashion designers or like professional designers, but we have been really into creating things, including the Lunar Garden book, for example. It's not just a book, it's a calendar, a journal, the moon cycles, the preferred planting dates, whatever, coffee table. I could keep going, just go check it out. But we're into creating things that we wish existed, or that are very like, oh, well, I wish I had a t-shirt that said this, or I wish I had a coffee tumbler that said this. So yes, we released a new line called Teaching is My Vibe. Perfect for end of the year teacher gifts, or I mean, even if you're a coach or teacher, I mean, teaching is a gift. So but yeah, I wasn't sure. They had put in the merch shop this new option. It's really good quality, sister.
it looks nice.
It's really good quality. The top has this like plastic slide, and my coffee's still hot over an hour later. Very good quality. Anyways, you can visit bit.ly/edu vibes. Or if you go to educatoraid.com, there's a shop button. But anyways, yeah, I had to show it off, but I'm drinking a local coffee this morning. It turned out really nice. Yeah. So
Well, I'm sitting here in the Petty Parlor.
okay, sorry, that was petty. Now I've hit Kara on edge. I kind of was dragging it out on purpose because who I'm bringing into the Petty Parlor is actually somebody she knows really, really well.
Oh no, is it me? You bringing me into the Petty Parlor? You're bringing me into the Petty Parlor. Oh, you're bringing in my creeper husband.
Let's talk about it. Your husband's not a creeper. I love my brother-in-law dearly. Hey, Anthony. I wanted to bring Anthony's IG.
I'm saying this because when you see an account such as this, you see 0 posts. He's following 87 people and has 71 followers.
Okay.
So
see, I knew you would jump off in all directions with it. That's why I wanted to bring Anthony into the Petty Parlor. And it's not even Anthony. Anthony, you're not on trial. You're not
on trial. You're fine.
It's
but you
just
should
your
at least
IG
put
account.
a post in there.
All
like
we're
maybe
doing
9 little squares so somebody can look at your life and be like,
no,
oh.
I have a solution and a suggestion, actually. That's why I wanted.
Okay.
And actually, the only reason I'm bringing his account, his Instagram account, to the Petty Parlor is because my man's is almost identical.
Yeah.
And so here's what I will ask. And this is just a question for conversation. Honestly, I don't care one way or another. I know Kara doesn't really care one way or another. But this is very common, I feel like, for men in the Gen X and millennial range.
That's why I said creeper.
And so,
because it's like you're just there
Kara,
to voyeur.
You're being harder on your husband than I was even.
He will admit it. He just literally said this to me the other day. He likes creeping on people's posts better than he likes sharing. You're a creeper or a sharer. I think there's one or the other.
But I think you're misusing that word because I don't.
Well, I don't mean it in like a.
When it's a visual, it's a visual social media platform. Okay,
yeah.
But he's just not a person who's an engaged user. Basically, he's engaged in looking and not sharing. So
yeah.
But it's a visual platform. I only brought it up honestly because this is a lot more common for men's accounts. And I know with Thaddeus, he just really he probably couldn't even tell you the last month that he even logged into his account. Yeah. He's never been big on social media. I know Anthony is more on social media, way more than Thaddeus is, but so I understand that. But I also wonder, yeah, to your point about for women, I really feel like social media is like our version of Saturday morning cartoons.
Yeah.
And maybe for guys it's tense, and I'm being very like gender I'm not being very
You're being very
gender
binary.
inclusive. I am being very binary right now because obviously there's women who enjoy video games, but if you look statistically, like it's going to be more men who are adults that still play video games, including my man, right, who's
Yeah.
over 40.
Yeah.
So, but that's what they grew up in that era, but I liken like a female's time on social media is similar to a man either like being on video games or gambling or like
Yeah,
I feel like
I can see that.
it's our version of Saturday morning cartoons. Like that's what we do for fun.
I look at it like window shopping for ideas because like I do this with Instagram and with Pinterest because I don't tend to follow accounts that aren't like uplifting. That's why I got off Facebook
Yeah.
because
Yep.
there's a lot of crap and I was a willing participant in that, let me be clear. But I just find Instagram to be more inspirational in general, depending on who you follow. So I don't like follow a whole, like there's some people that I know in real life, but for the most part, I tend to look at it as a platform to interact with new people and glean ideas and inspiration.
Do you even follow your husband?
I reluctantly did, yeah,
I
because
don't think
like
you do you actually, because it only shows like his sister follows him. It would show like followed by blank and Glam Gourmet Home.
I don't
You don't
I
you
would
don't
never
publicly follow your own
if
husband.
I would never follow an account like this because
Right.
there's nothing
Yeah.
there. Like,
He's the only one that I follow an account like this. But okay, here was my suggestion. We love you, Anthony. You're not.
yeah, I'm following him.
But okay. But
Oh,
here's
that's weird. On mine, it says something completely different. It says 72 followers. Oh, is that what it said on yours?
Yeah. He follows 80 some.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, okay.
Yeah, I
But my
follow him.
suggestion to him was going to be this as a solution.
He doesn't care, but go ahead.
I know he doesn't, but I also think that he could actually, I don't know, he could low-key become an influencer or whatever.
I told him he needs to put fishing and dogs on there. There's all kinds of those kinds of
No,
accounts.
I have a better niche. I have what I'll do you one better because
Okay.
there are all types of accounts that are more like dogs and
Yeah.
like it's saturated.
Yeah.
What I don't see and what he spends time putting on Facebook that gets tons of views, I would suggest to him he makes his account only posts about guitar and banjo. That's all. And like he should change his handle to like Banjo Man or something.
That's a
Because
good idea.
that is not a saturated niche. He's super talented and he puts the videos on Facebook. So why wouldn't you just only put those on your Instagram? Like that's a platform to actually share your creativity and art with the world. So that's what I would suggest to Anthony with peace and love. If you really care that much, which I know you don't, probably won't listen to this. We still love you. But if it were me, that is what I would do because he already does that on Facebook. So why not put those videos? Because that's also the type of entertainment a lot of people on Instagram enjoy. And I've never seen an account devoted to banjo playing. And that's what he could do. Banjo Man.
I'm sure they exist somewhere, but yeah. I don't think he cares to put energy in putting out.
Uh-oh. We just took a turn on this episode, listeners.
I think he really loves, like on Facebook especially, I think he loves having the memories from a few years ago pop up so he can like revisit and relive. But other than that, I don't think he's into it. He likes seeing what other people are doing,
Well,
being nosy.
Clearly he's not that into it.
No, he's not. Not at all. I'm not even really sure why he got on. I asked him. He didn't really have a good answer.
Probably to creep on your account.
Probably. Gotta see what I'm up to. No, my husband's not all like that. He could care less.
A voyeur of his own wife.
Ooh, yeah. Ooh, sick.
Sexy. Like he's at work on his lunch and somebody comes into his office, so he
He's like, give me that.
He's like,
Give me that feed.
woo! And then his boss will be like, what are you doing? He'll be like, I was looking at my wife's Instagram. I'm sorry.
I know it's company time, but I just can't help myself.
I had to see a picture of her throughout my day. Okay, sorry. We're just being completely petty in all new levels of pettium. How could we make up a word? Like,
Pettiosity.
Yeah, pettiosity. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Hassan Piker, he says copium. That's his thing. We've reached new levels of copium. Okay, well, let's leave it.
For listeners who don't listen.
I don't want to get in trouble with my brother-in-law and have a deterrent for him to not.
He's not gonna listen to this. He won't even know.
For him to not build the bed frame in the toy room for me to sleep there next time.
Oh yeah, whoops.
Am I gonna have to bring my air mattress again?
I'm not making any promises about anything.
At a certain point, I might have to sleep in the camper. Who knows? I mean,
that's a good idea.
I would actually enjoy that at this time of year with the weather. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we can set her up for you.
As long as there's not like bed bugs.
No.
I forget the title of that episode, but for sure you guys should go listen. That was a classic episode. When we need to do that again. Actually, when I come out there in a couple weeks, it's about a week when I'll be out there.
Oh,
let's record in your Ramper, your Dodge Bama.
Yeah.
That was a great episode.
Yeah. I thought that was for our book club. Did we do a podcast episode in it?
We did, because we started by letting listeners know we weren't recording it on Zoom because because we were having coffee on a Saturday morning, much like today. Yeah. But we just did a voice one because I was describing the brown carpet and yeah. Okay. So let's leave the Petty Parlor. Thank you so much for letting me put your husband's. I didn't tell you in advance that's what it was, but I just wanted to see Kara's reaction and how she'd react. But we are going to move into a little segment we call Go Sage Yourself.
Ooh, and it's the biggest Go Sage Yourself.
Yeah, it's
of the century so far. Yeah. Ooh, I don't know that there's enough sage. You got it.
So we let me get this sage lit. Can you cue up what you know about this person and what's been happening, just for as I and before I share the news story itself? I only looked up one source.
So we are going to be discussing Miss Rachel Hollis. I'm going to call her Ms. I'm not sure what her current status is. But for many of you, you probably have heard of her and her husband, or her ex-husband now, were kind of like wellness. I don't even know how to explain it. Like, they would go around doing these inspirational conferences, different locations around the country. And she had a few books, namely the most popular one I can think of is called Girl Wash Your Face. Where I haven't read the book personally, but it's supposedly like basically telling women to get up, get out, do something with their lives. There's mixed reviews on the messaging as far as like how she goes about the inspiration. So like if you're a person that maybe likes to go work out with a personal trainer who yells and degrades you, like Rachel Hollis might be that person for you in the wellness coaching realm. Okay. Which is kind of a strange thing to use the word wellness and then, like drill sergeant type of vibes in the same.
Yeah.
For me, I would feel too tender to be able to take that in and use it in a productive way in my life. But I guess some women appreciate it or have appreciated it in the past until now, because now she kind of dug herself into a hole. I'm not sure if she'll dig herself out.
Well, I want to preface this with, like, I think that we're kind of in the age of where people are actually becoming awakened to how to hold people accountable for what they say.
Yeah, and let's
And
be clear, cancel culture is not a thing for
yeah,
people who like to throw around the fact that cancel culture is ridiculous and blah, blah, blah. No, it's using your money and your resources to invest in people who you want to have a voice in this world. And if there are people, particular people out there spewing messages of hate and causing pain towards other people with their words,
right.
it doesn't have to be action oriented because words are very meaningful and important, and how we use them is important. Um, yeah, I mean, just as in life, you're going to have consequences. Like if I go down to the end of my road right now and stick out both middle fingers to oncoming traffic, probably like somebody is gonna like pull over and be like yelling at my middle fingers and asking me why I'm pointing middle fingers at them and why am I doing this. Somebody might even like try to veer off the road and hit me if they're really angry at me. But like I'm just saying, like I can't go down to the end of my road and do something like that without some kind of consequence accountability. Maybe somebody's going to drive by and take a video of me doing it and put it out for my whole community to see. Like that's not cancel culture. That's because I did something that wasn't wise, or
Yes, your words, behaviors, and your actions. So let's
they
understand.
matter, just like we teach our
Yep.
children. I
Yep.
have a really hard time at this point in history with adults my age and older, and some younger, not being able to register this idea. And also it scares me to think about that they're also raising the next generation of children.
Right. Well, that's so again, we're not here to place judgment on Rachel Hollis as a person because we obviously don't know her personally. The difference is with accountability, you are naming and putting weight and naming and sharing and communicating with people something that you said you did, right? Your words, your actions, your behaviors in that situation or whatever are unacceptable or are harming to somebody. And that's it. Like I ask for that, right? We ask for that in feedback with training, whatever. But even in life, like why, like that's the thing again, just to remember, if you like Rachel Hollis, that's fine. We're not tearing her down as a person. And that's never our intent and go sage yourself. But we are going to talk about, like what it means to be held accountable. And I think we are in that age where we get to, like, even though that is not how the United States has always operated, there is no choice but for there to be an uprising of saying, no, this is what you did and said. And maybe that isn't always who you are. Maybe you made a mistake, but we'll be doggone if we're going to sit and let people be harmful.
Well,
And
and
I would
also I
expect
think,
the same, right? Like it's
yeah,
nothing that we're not saying or that Kara and I haven't experienced with friends, with trusted confidants, with each other. And it might hurt in that moment, but you know what? You have to learn. That's how you learn how to, quote unquote, when people say, well, do better, or I want to do better. Well, okay, well, then take feedback when people try to hold you accountable for your words, your actions, and behaviors.
well, and I think it's pretty hilarious too that a lot of in Christianity, I can't speak for other faith bases, but
Western
in
Christian
Western
in particular.
Christianity, a big, huge, fat part of that religious system is accountability, and how people are held accountable to the quote unquote word of God, or the laws of the legalistic part of the church that Justine and I kind of have separated ourselves from. But
Because it
all
was
that
an
to say,
accountability of what's not harmful to you or others. A lot of times it's masked with the word accountability, but it's actually, I'm the pastor and I have an issue with this, so I want to control this with this
right, I
word.
think what you're doing in your world is wrong.
Yeah,
You need to correct this. It's not a matter. Hold on just one moment.
you're fine.
I'm going to can we pause for just a second? my children
Yeah.
are being disrespectful, I told them I needed quiet. And they were like,
Hold
"Oh
them
my God."
accountable.
I'm holding them accountable.
Hang on. We're back. Quick pause. Kara's kids are being a little loud. I
You
wonder,
little rabble rousers.
I wonder where they get that from.
I don't know, not me.
Oh, okay. So, anyways, accountability, it just happened, right? You asked for them to do something. Their behaviors were not matching what you asked. And you kindly said, hey, I asked you to be quiet while I'm podcasting.
Mhm.
Please make sure this happens. And they responded.
And now they're quiet.
Their feelings aren't hurt. They're
Yeah.
not groveling over it. And that's the thing. I think it's okay if it hurts in the moment or you feel embarrassed or whatever, but don't I think this situation, and let's actually also break this down. I'm going to start sharing my screen. That way, in case people are listening and they don't know what we're talking about, we can give some context. But in that situation, it's like it snowballed into something bigger than it even needed to be because she got so defensive. She couldn't even regulate herself, right? To not just be reactive. There was one iteration I saw of a post where she blamed her team, and it was supposed to be an apology, but she really didn't take ownership for anything she said in her own video.
Can I preface also with the fact that if you are Rachel Hollis, she has like over 1 million followers on her Instagram, which followers don't really mean a lot depending on like how engaged your community is and that kind of thing. However, it does lend itself to some perks like sponsorships, monetary perks, right? To have that level of following. For sure, she benefits from it. So, and you're also a person that you've authored several books, you have a podcast, you have a huge, like a business empire essentially, right? And you're a very popular person. You're at every Target on the corner with your
He was
book
just
kiosk.
on the Kelly Clarkson show.
Right. So why the frick are you worried about a comment by somebody? Why are you even in there reading comments? Like, to me, this had to be something that was like a personal friend or somebody that was involved in some way in her business. Who knows? But I just got stuck on this, like at the very onset of learning about this story. It's like, why is she in her comments reading her comments? And also, why does she care? It was such a very minuscule thing to say that you would think that somebody at that level, they're blocking all that out, because for them to get to their place of greatness, you gotta weed some of that out. You can't listen to everybody who thinks they have something to say about you. You just can't. So the fact that she fixated on this one comment was it insane to you?
Well, okay. I want to pause us because let's back up, right? I don't know that everybody just knows about this happening.
Well, no, I know, but
yeah. So I want to make sure we give the context, and I also want to share along the same lines that Kara did. And this is similar with other things that we go with and go sage yourself, because the whole thought, and it's paying homage to Sarah Jakes Roberts, and she has a segment in her podcast Women Evolve called Saving Eve. And so you really analyze the situation of the behaviors, not the person, and then in our way, in a loving, fun way, we decide, would you pass your sage to that person? So that's where we got the idea for the concepts. And we love Sarah Jakes Roberts' podcast too. So totally giving homage there. But Kara and I use sage a lot. And we've talked about that in other episodes. Anyways, so it's just kind of a way for us to talk about something that, quite frankly, usually these are cultural events that are in pop news culture or something, and usually in the States. So just giving a little context even for our segment for listeners. But I will say, to your point, Kara, the only time I even heard about Rachel Hollis was maybe 4, 5, 6 years ago when that book did come out, or whenever it became a big hit and everybody was saying, girl, wash your face. And Kara knows this. Actually, for years, I have made fun of that title of that book, and I refuse to ever buy it because even the title, there's just something about her and about the book that it never drew me in. I never it didn't resonate with me personally. And I've always just never been interested, really. So this was interesting that this came up again, because again, I don't really follow her closely. I only knew about her through that book title. And Kara knows I just wasn't a fan of what the book was named, and I wasn't interested in it. So anything else to add about context, Kara?
Another recent background about her story is that, like, I don't know much leading up, like, into her career, other than apparently she was like a stay-at-home mom of some sort who is also working on a coaching career or something. I don't know, but somehow her and her husband developed this business where they were kind of mentoring couples through difficult times in their marriage. They would have these retreats for couples and like be giving marriage advice. And like within the last year, it's come out that they were having tons of struggles in their marriage while they're in tandem teaching people about how to have like these really healthy, productive marriages when they're not even like doing that in their own life. And so that was another point of contention for the public in the last 6 months, because lots of people have paid them money to be parts of these exclusive retreats and things like that. And here they are, it turns out they get a divorce, and she's written a book about it before. Like, so she puts out the news that she's got a divorce, and all of a sudden she has this book to go with it.
Yeah, it supposedly comes out right after. Do you remember the title? It was this weird. So
something
that
like, I didn't know this. Like I didn't know this was going to happen. It wasn't that.
Let me
but
look
like
it up. But that actually is. She did catch our attention about. It was about this time last year, right after the pandemic.
Yep.
And that did catch our attention because Kara and I both were like, what? Like, this is weird, because Kara was telling me, well, her and her husband come on every day and they do these little like
they have
motivational
coffee,
couples
and then they
coffee
talks.
Yep. And so she hasn't posted. I'm on her Instagram right now. I do not follow her, but she hasn't posted for 5 days. When she and we'll go through all the different little things that have transpired with this. However, when did the book come out? Let's see.
It was, I think, June or July last year.
And if you've been in the book writing process before, which I have been heavy involved in multiple ways,
it's not like a quick overnight deal. You don't like get a divorce and then announce your launch the next day.
So it's called Didn't See
That Coming.
And I see
Budget.
It came out at the end of September. So I wanted to teach about how to navigate a crisis or the loss of someone you love or the absence of a life you once knew. Now I find myself in the midst of a week of press talking endlessly about all the hard things, and it feels impossible. So, but that's the thing. There is this, like, I think that's also why Kara and I have been a little leery of ever being a follower of hers or ever wanting to buy anything that she's put out, because it's all just seemed very contrived when you dig deeper into her past. Like, she is a person who comes from privilege, not only because she's white. We both are aware that we're white passing Latinas. Just being transparent, right? It's not weird to talk about these things. But on top of that, she was married to a person who was an executive at Disney. So you immediately have access to marketing, advertising, executives, people who know this industry of how do I create my story, like, because that was always me and Kara's question. What is this person known for? Like what arenas has she served?
What did they do in their previous life? What is their, like, not that you have to have credentials or a college education behind your name, but like, where do you come from? Even if you're somebody who has zero college education, maybe you didn't even finish high school, but you've done XYZ and now you're an expert
Right.
at
Maybe you
this.
started multiple companies, or
Whatever.
maybe you got into real estate investing, whatever it is. Kara and I just could never find, like, it was.
What do you do? Like, you're a mom and you're teaching about your postpartum depression is what I thought that she did, kind of. I don't really know. Like, I don't know her body of work, but
So
that's kind of like,
that is what always has led Kara and I to be like, yeah, I'm not really interested. Like, for example, I've loved Gabby Bernstein for a long time, have read multiple books. Kara's been turned on to her in different ways from me saying, hey, you should check this out, whatever. You never go to Gabby Bernstein's profile and question what her track record has been and what her story is. You never question that because she's transparent about it and she's inclusive about how she shares her experiences. So
she's not just, the problem with Rachel Hollis is she's not just sharing her experiences and saying like, I'm just sharing what I'm going through. I hope it helps you, like many people on the internet
she positions herself as an authority.
As an expert and authority. Yeah. And it's harmful to other people because, yeah, well, you're going to see why. Because her whole attitude, which she very plainly puts out there.
Very unapologetic.
She knows, and you don't.
So,
and you have a lot to learn from her. And that's what she believes she's been put here to do. Though you, like, to me, you can't be an expert at, I don't know, any of the things that she's trying to teach.
The other resource we'll turn you on to too is I follow an account called According to Wheeze on Instagram. She has a great IGTV where it's like over an hour. She breaks down every single element of why this is problematic. And she has also done her research of like really going deep. And one of the things that stood out to me about that IGTV, Kara, is that she went deep into the past to research, like, well, where is this coming from? The whole way how Rachel Hollis talked about building her platform was because she was relatable. That's what she actually built this empire on is, we're relatable. We have coffee every morning as a couple. I struggle with postpartum, blah, blah, blah.
I'm the same as you.
Yes, her whole basis. So I'm setting up this video so you all realize her whole basis of how she built a multi-million-dollar empire was literally built on the fact that I'm relatable. I'm just like you. So then when you see this was the video she put out, almost a minute long. It was originally on TikTok and then it was on Instagram. And she's the one who shared it. Okay. The caption alone says this lets you know inside her mind how she views herself. Harriet Tubman, RBG, Marie Curie, Oprah Winfrey, Amelia Earhart, Frida Kahlo, Malala Yousafzai, Wu Zetian. I don't know if I said that name correctly. All unrelatable AF. Happy Women's History Month. So you're building a case. Not only is your narcissism so up there that you are literally, as a white privileged female, putting yourself in the same category as Harriet Tubman. Okay, that's just how this all kicked off. Her own caption, her own video choices to post, and saw nothing wrong with it, didn't think it would be problematic. Let's take a listen.
Doing a live stream, and I mentioned that there's a sweet woman who comes to my house twice a week and cleans. She's my house cleaner.
She don't have a name?
I mean, I wouldn't put that out there.
Okay, but still.
She cleans the toilets. Someone commented and said, "You are privileged."
She cleans the toilets.
So you went from saying she's the house cleaner and then minimizing her even more.
She cleans my toilet.
My toilet.
Where I shit and I pee.
Yeah.
She cleans my toilet.
Mm-hmm.
AF. And I was like,
how about she helps me take care of my house and my family?
She helps me keep it all together.
Yeah.
Something, right? Okay.
And I was like, you're right. I'm super freaking privileged. But
wait, let's see.
And I was like,
what did she say?
And said, you are privileged AF. And I was like, you're right. I'm super freaking privileged, but also worked my ass off to have the money to have someone come twice a week and clean my toilets. And I told her that. And then she said, well, you're unrelatable. What is it about me that made you think I want to be relatable? Now,
Yes, there's dead air right now, listeners, because we're just like, first of all, you, again, to Kara's point, you hopped into your comments because somebody said you're privileged AF. You got defensive about it and you immediately equated, but I work really hard. Let's see what she goes on to say and why you really thought I wanted to be relatable. This is also why it's harmful in so many ways. So many ways. And for so many reasons.
sis, literally everything I do in my life is to live a life that most people can't relate to. Most people won't work this hard. Most people won't get up at 4 a.m. Most people won't fail publicly again and again just to reach the top of the mountain. Literally every woman I admire in history was unrelatable. If my life is relatable to most people, I'm doing it wrong. Doing a live stream. And I mentioned that there's a sweet woman who
Okay.
So pretty much anti everything we are about in our business, which is empowering other women, lifting other women up, coaching other women to the degree that they have full confidence in their God-given talents and abilities to be able to put out there the beauty that they have been blessed with, the seeds in their life that they're planting all around them. The antithesis of anything that God would have us do, right? With our lives. She has just embodied the absolute antithesis of all of that. Meaning, I want to put myself on this pedestal. I view myself as better than everybody else, so I need to be on this pedestal. And I don't give a damn about all the peasants below me because my job is not to be relatable. My job is to have an unparalleled life experience that nobody could possibly have or imagine having, or very few people could have or imagine having. Like, I don't think, like, Justine and I have had this conversation about flaunting wealth. Like, both of us do fine financially. We don't go around saying that. We also feel a little bit funny about having certain things that show our wealth, or I don't know, like, for us, it's like we think of money, you and I think of money as being able to pour out into the world, like, for the betterment of humanity, right? The more money you have, the more generous you can be with other people.
Well, it's also freedom. I mean, it gives you those options of, if you do want to
Right.
take a trip with family, if you do, it gives you freedoms not only in the realm of helping people, but also being able to really do what you love, right? And not have
But we're not people that are going to, at the detriment of not being able to help other people, we're not going to be doing all these flashy vacations. And, you know, well, we know there are people in our lives that like could use our assistance or could whatever.
I don't have, like, this is me personally, Kara. I don't have a problem with even that, honestly. Like, because I also think that's the fine line of, I don't want to put myself in this bracket of like, well, I think I'm holier than thou because I just choose to use my money differently, right? So even that,
No, I don't think, and that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying, like, we're not out there trying to flaunt. We're not out there trying to flaunt our excess, I guess. I don't want to be a person that's looked at as, for me, I don't want to be a person that's looked at as, well, she's got all this stuff, but she never, she's never able to help anybody, or she's never able to, like, that's not the point of, I don't think God gives people wealth to only bless them. I think God gives people wealth because they're stewards of money, like of money.
That, but they're
able to,
they're also serving others with their spiritual gifts. And I think that's the other thing, when you ask God to expand your territory or to have a bigger influence, that can be made possible. And then, you know, people are going to want to pay you for that, and that's okay. But
absolutely.
right, you should be looking at all those things anyway. I mean, and that's, so I think wealth and legacy are both beautiful things. And I think, but even her language, right, of to the mountaintop, I don't know what that means. What is the mountaintop? Is that like when you reach a certain dollar amount in your bank? Is that it's a very formulaic. There was also like various microaggressions, including her use of the vernacular sis. Just like that's probably not a normal thing in her language. And it's also mainly a term used within the African American community. But like, I don't know. There were so many things, and I looked at some of the comments. My other concern too, because you hear so much of supremacy language, specifically white supremacy and privileged language in what she says multiple times. But then come to find out, she actually has an adopted daughter who's mixed race, and part Black. So like, there's all these really strange things about that are very concerning and very harmful and very telling about how you really view yourself. And how did you go from, like, I just think it says a lot about her character. I honestly don't think she was aware that anything she was saying was damaging or harmful.
No, I don't think so. I think she was trying to be like rah rah, like you can do
like
this.
she was trying to be like a Mel Robbins type person, like or I don't know if you know who that is. She's like a motivational speaker. I'm trying to think of a good another example of a person who's like just a
Tony Robbins.
Yeah, like a Tony Robbins. I mean, that
are they related?
I don't know. I don't even know. I've always wondered that. But that's, yeah, I think she was trying to, or like a Gary V. I think she was trying to do like I'm going to give it to you raw. And this is what I really think. But it completely backfired. And then so she issues this pseudo apology. It's not really an apology. She really is blaming her team. And then she takes that one down. Like, and she left the post. She also left the post up. Like, even with backlash, she left it up for like 4 or 5 days. So then again, based on the track record, and obviously Kara and I have very minimal knowledge. We don't know her personally. But if you look at the track record of even kind of the funny business of like the book she released and how she released it after the divorce and stuff, you can't help but go there to go, but are you just contriving all of these things for more media and to stay relevant and to make money? I don't know. But that is why on so many levels, in so many ways, we could literally unpack this for hours and you wouldn't even touch the tip of the iceberg about how condescending and just gross that video is.
I think that she's probably straddled this line of like self-loathing and shame for herself, like internally, and then overcompensated probably in a lot of ways by saying, like, if you look at her Instagram profile, she says,
would you like me to pull it up?
No, I've got it right here. Let me just read you the quick and dirty of her. So, podcasts for days, books for miles. So she wants you to know she's a go-getter. She's done all this stuff. She has a repertoire. She has a vault of a body of work, and she wants you to know it, which is great and fine if you're not just doing it for having it. Like, if you're actually saying something in that body of work. But what if some of the feedback that some of the people who have been in her audience previously are saying, you know what, I got the book and I felt worse after reading it. She made me feel small. Like, I don't respond well to vernacular like this.
There's something wrong with who I am or what I'm doing as to why I'm not successful. But if I just work harder, let's unpack that language. If you know anything about colonization and a slavery model in the United States, well, if you just work harder, then you can blah, blah, blah. Of course.
That's the whole pick yourself up by your bootstraps mentality of why people say, oh, well, okay, we should help and love everybody. Well, this person needs your help. They feel this way. Well, they just need to work as hard as I do and they would be just as successful. And they need to pick themselves up by their bootstraps.
And find an executive in film to
marry.
Because that's really
for you,
for all of us. Okay.
Right.
Let's, like, again, you could go down the list, but the main thing with this, I think the issue you and I have both identified that we personally have, because we we haven't engaged in any of her work or engaged her in any way, but like, it's the motive. Like, if we knew your platform was about, we do this, and so we can help people do this, or we help do this, but then we also give back in these ways. Most influencers have that, and you know what they're passionate about. But the difference with her is you don't. You somehow made your money off of building an empire that you're relatable, but now you're saying you don't want to be relatable, and you're laughing like really meanly about it towards people. Like, I think, and you were targeting a specific commenter. That's the other thing. To your point, why are you even spending time doing that? And then
That's the most
you
striking
made a whole
thing.
video about it, but it shows your true motivation. Like, out of all the millions of comments and views and everything, it shows your true motivation, and how, like, to your point, I think she has a lot of shame going on there, or she feels guilty about something, and it lends you to believe, again, you do all the things, you do all these things, but we still don't know your motive, and we don't know what drives you. And I think that is what also became problematic for people to continue to see. I don't know.
Well, and also, like, I would say 95% of the comments that I was looking at on that particular post were like, you can't do this. Like, what are you doing? Even people that had been fans for years of hers and really looked to her as an inspiration, just saying like, man, this is really disappointing. I can't believe that you think this way of your audience. Like, you don't care. You see your audience as being there for you, to lift you up and your accomplishments, because you're on this high pedestal that you don't think is attainable for me. So why would
And
I?
the people on your team are also a reflection of that. So if you look at some of her posts and people she tagged as like, this is my A1 girl, my go-to girl, or this is one of my besties who I get to work with, or whatever she puts, and then you click on their accounts, they have like comparable followership to you and I. And so then it begs the question, if you were really also empowering others and helping them continue to grow, that doesn't quite make sense. And I only say that as, I'm going to use the example of Conan O'Brien.
Mhm.
Most people, who Conan O'Brien is. I love Conan. I've loved him for years. Think he's one of the top 5 greatest comedians in the States. But part of the reason I love him so much is, if you really look at all of his stuff on YouTube, he's now expanded to do Team Coco podcasts, whatever. But if you look at his body of work from the past, basically like 30 years, you will also see that who Jordan Schlansky is, who Sona is. Like, these are all people that work with him, and they've grown, and he gives them shine. He has playlists just for his team on his YouTube channel. You know who all of his people are, because he's okay with sharing the spotlight. He's okay with sharing their
Because he
relationship.
knows that they make him who he is.
That's
They
right.
make him, they're
And the
part of that.
other thing with him is that I also know, low key, this dude is like super about bringing people together and giving people new knowledge and experiences. He's been traveling the world for years, and there is not a country that, if you, again, go to his YouTube and watch his different remote like shows, he put together entire series in Mexico about the border wall and getting on the floor, on the ground level with people and talking with them. He's been to Japan, he's been to Germany, he's been to Ghana, he's been like, he goes everywhere. And part of it is because he's using his platform to educate, even through humor. He is educating the United States and the world about other lived experiences. So I have no question what his motive and motivation is. Yeah, the man makes millions and millions of dollars, and he's super popular, but he's also relatable AF, Rachel Hollis, because I also watch somebody like him, and like, I feel like Kara and I could go have a beer with him and he wouldn't be weird. It would just be a normal
and
person.
I want to know, like, in her mind, what does she think is relatable? Like, the people she named off, obviously they would not have the good deeds on the history book and the fame that they have today as living legends and saints, in my opinion, many of them. Like, if they didn't have people who resonated with their messaging or resonated with the timeliness of the message they were there to bring,
And how they were serving, how they were serving.
They were relatable because they brought something new to the table and people got excited about it. It wasn't like,
not only that, Kara, that list are straight up disruptors who
right.
Malala was shot and she stood up in a country where women had no rights.
That she even like, it makes me think she just went to like Google and was like top women in history.
Right.
And didn't even know who the frick she was talking about.
That's
you're comparing yourself to somebody who was martyred. Like,
wow. So here we find ourselves in Go Sage Yourself. The sage has gone out, as happens often, because we banter and we go back and forth and really try to give you a picture, right? It's not the full context. We fully realize that. Maybe you have other thoughts. Maybe you think we're being too hard on her. Again, it is about your actions and your words that you said. That doesn't mean people aren't redeemable, and it doesn't mean that we are saying she's not a human, because she is. So just to be clear,
I'm going to pass my lighter to Rachel Hollis
to get her own sage started.
Yeah.
Oh, you just invented a new option.
Yeah,
I'm with it.
Yeah,
I'm with it
because I agree exactly with what you're saying. Every human has redeemable qualities because we're all creations of God. We're all put here for a specific purpose. I believe that some people have to go through downfalls publicly in order to resonate and learn about their gifts and talents. So we'll see what comes out of this. However, the reason I'm not passing my sage is because I also know she has scandals behind her similar to this and has not learned her lesson.
Correct.
And continues to shift based on what she thinks will be palatable to her general audience, which is not of highest calling, in my opinion. Like you're no more than a talking head if that's your positioning. Like if you're going to be completely have your life run by popular opinion and like what you should and shouldn't be saying.
She's driven by the bottom line. She's not driven by people. She's driven by her bottom line and how she can capitalize. She's a capitalist, like through and through. She is a supremacist minded capitalist. So she is she's
and again, nothing wrong with American money. Nothing wrong with working for your money and hoping to get a maximum amount of money that you're able to earn. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you're, first of all, playing with other people's money, there needs to be accountability there. You don't get to play with my money if you don't play with it that way.
Oh, we're going to have this incredible experience at a retreat and I'm going to charge you thousands of dollars. But actually, I just really just run my mouth, and I'm not now at this point. She's really not even authentic, because this, to your point, it's a repetitive pattern in behavior. There's two things that stick out to me. And I told Kara the one before, and it is, if you go look up her husband's account, correct me if I'm wrong, he openly talks about God. Mm-hmm. So one thing I noticed when I browse her things, not only is she not giving shine and empowering and crediting others consistently, it's all about her. Mm-hmm. I also don't ever really see her make any mention of giving like gratitude to God. I could be totally off, but I just did not see that present in anything that I browsed briefly. The other thing to consider is exactly what you said. This isn't the first time. So as Kara and I looked a little bit into this prior to recording the show, like you will find that in her fan base and like audience, a lot of people are saying, no, she's done stuff like this before. This isn't the first time. So again, going back to motivation, well, then are you doing it purposely so that you can be in the headlines and be relevant in your mind and draw attention to yourself? Is it a marketing ploy? Either way, terrible. Or are you just that tone deaf and unaware of yourself, that you really have no clue what you're saying is harmful? So for the reason of, honestly, what it comes down to for me is you have a daughter who's Black. You use so many microaggressions consistently, and not only is it harmful to people in your audience from like a class socioeconomic level, that just is very, very concerning to me that you're a person who talks that way. Even if her daughter wasn't Black, any adopted child who is
I'm
maybe
talking about any children, period. Like
right.
when I
But
think
on
about
top of
talking,
that,
like
Kara, you have a Black daughter, and this is what you are saying. That is insane to me.
I can't wrap my head around ever thinking to speak that way, like about my own
Right.
gifts and abilities. And if you're talking like that to people you don't know, what are you saying to your kids behind closed doors? Like,
Exactly.
what are you? There are so many parents already that use their kids as pawns for to lift themselves up, and you know, the classic like soccer mom behavior, or soccer dad, whatever.
Yep.
I'm just going to use that sport in particular because it's a popular thing to say, like soccer mom, soccer dad, whatever. You're constantly devoting all your time and attention trying to make your kid great. But why are you trying to get like wanting your kids to be great at what they're good at? But there are so many parents that push their kids into things of that they're not actually gifted with. But it's like, okay, well, we got to do this because this family over here does this sort of travel sport.
Right.
So we got to be keeping up with all the things, and we get angry at our kids at the games and yell at them and make them feel like shit because they're not performing to the standard that we know they can. We just know they're the best one on the team. Like it's akin to like either she's teaching her kids that same mindset, I don't know, I'm not in her house, or like how do they deal with the fact that their mother's untouchable, like her daughter's looking at a mother like that, like my mom's on a pedestal, I'm never going to be for her, like
hang on, you
get
paused.
on my level type of.
Oh, okay. You timed out for a minute there.
Oh, I don't know.
You were okay. But you were saying you cut off when it said, or her daughter's gonna think she's on a pedestal and I'll never get there, basically, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what came up, what kind of triggered in me with this whole thing was that couple that we discussed. I think they might have been, honestly, before we even started calling it Go Sage Yourself, but they were one of the first like people that we unpacked. They're YouTubers, the ones who built their whole empire, quote unquote, and monetization on their adoption journey. Remember them? And then they wanted to send back, the child was, I believe, from China. And they
got rid of the child.
They got rid of the child because they couldn't handle it. And they had an actual, but they had built their whole entire YouTube platform about their journey of adoption and monetized it. And so the other concerning thing, and I'll just be very transparent and bold with this and call a spade a spade. When I looked at her Instagram feed, and the exorbitant number of pictures that she embedded of her daughter. That's why I'm fixated on this. Her Black adopted daughter. I felt very triggered in the same way when we talked about them, of like, she's using this and she's milking it for whatever purpose. So because everything that we go back to, no matter the situation, whether it's the ex-husband, the daughter, how she talks on a video to people she doesn't even know in the world that millions of people have seen, we don't know your intentions or motivations. What you have shown is that you're not willing to be responsive, and this is a recurring theme. I will not be passing my sage to Rachel Hollis. I will tell you to go wash your face and then get your own sage. That's all I have. That's all I have for her. Go wash your face and get your own sage. You can afford it. I'm not going to pass my sage. I appreciate that you're giving her the lighter to spark it, but
here's the thing. I think God can redeem anybody. I don't care how bad of a person you think somebody is. God is a redeemer, and I fully believe that. But we have to make steps in our lives, first of all, to claim the good and the bad about our situations.
Yeah.
And hold ourselves accountable. Like, if you have I know life is not about pleasing everybody.
Right.
That's not what we're saying.
No.
Like, I don't think anybody should have to filter.
And we're not saying to not speak your truth either.
I'm glad. No, I'll give her that. She said what was on her mind and she was honest and upfront. That's who she is.
Right.
So
She showed you who she was.
I will not be supporting her with my dollars. I hope that many women will feel the same way. I'm not saying go cancel Rachel Hollis, but that will take care of itself. Like, right. But in turn then, also, if I'm working with somebody and I know they're a big Rachel Hollis fan, in spite of, everything that has progressed, I kind of know, like, that's probably not my vibe and not my sweet spot, to be in community with people that would have that point of view. So, to each his own. And if she wants to go through life, it's like to us, like, that would just
deeply unaware of herself. That's what I think. I think she's deeply unaware of herself.
But how do you get so far and not have to face that? Like, even in our business, we have to, like, I feel like over and over we've had to face our weaknesses and the things that we need
because she's never came graciously, to my knowledge. She's come as the expert, right? So even though you would think going through that divorce and being raw and sharing your hardships, no, but you put it into a book.
Like, you've already figured it out.
Like, you've already mastered it. So her position is always authoritative. No matter what she's coming out with, it's always authoritative.
But why does she think that why does she think that, well, I know, maybe our audience doesn't know, why does she think that she can do that? What gives her that authority or that privilege?
Who knows? Who knows? What do you think?
I mean, I definitely think it is cultural.
Well, yeah. She hasn't done a lot of unlearning or unpacking her own biases and her own thought processes. That's why I say she's as American as people come, because she is a capitalist. And I'm not, again, nothing wrong with being capital minded and knowing how to get resources. But again, at the same token, I shouldn't be left to question, how are you actually sharing those things with people? What are your motivations for doing what you do?
But capitalism in itself is not a bad thing. That's not what we're saying. It gives people lots of opportunities that aren't afforded in other parts of the world. But capitalism with no power check is very dangerous. Yeah. Because you then have these experts popping out from different places that are truly hold power. They truly do. She holds power, but she has it's like, if you emptied her out, there's nothing that, you know what I mean?
Like that would be a question for her. Rachel Hollis, how do you think you arrived at a place of being a person in power? How do you think that happened? Right? Like, that's the other thing that's why I say I think she's completely unaware of herself, and she has convinced herself, well, I work really hard. I'm sure she does work hard, but it's also
I'm sure we freaking work hard. I'm sure, but we're not Rachel Hollis.
Yeah, that also is a subjective statement. And the fact that she even went so far as to go, like, I saw so many people outraged and saying, oh, Rachel, did you forget about, like, teachers, doctors, nurses, lawyers, the lady cleaning your house, when she goes, most people won't get up at 4 a.m. What the? Oh, come on. Like, that does make me want to use some very choice words right now. You're going to sit here and tell me that when I was up at 3:30 a.m. every day as
and also we know
15-year-old? Come on.
And we also know within the last decade, you were struggling with major depressive episodes in which you could not get up and wash your face. So you wrote a book called Girl Wash Your Face because you finally did get out of bed. And you've been there, supposedly, so you must know that feeling of working your ass off is still not feeling good enough for it, or not feeling like fulfilled in your life. Like, what are you doing? I don't know.
Praise God, baby.
So let's we have determined Rachel Hollis has not received either of our sage bundles. But Rachel Hollis, we encourage you, as we encourage anybody's actions or behaviors we analyze, to go sage yourself. We just won't be sharing our sage with you. So I think let's move forward. Let's move forward a bit. That was pretty juicy. That was and you know, it'll be another person possibly next week, but like that's the thing. She will be old news pretty soon. And again, to Kara and I's point, she's not a person we've really invested energy in following at all. And so that's why it kind of caught our attention, like, wow, do that many people does she have that like big of an influence? Apparently so. But people are not happy about it, and they are holding her accountable for the fact that I think that she has been shown grace multiple times. Honestly, I think that this is not her first encounter of doing something like this, and that has been consistently stated in different articles and comments. So
Yeah.
So peace and love to you, Rachel Hollis, but you gotta figure it out, girl. Go wash your face. Take that advice. Okay, so moving forward. I have questions put down. Kara knows. I told her I have this ongoing memo on my phone that's just titled Pod. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah. It just is a random collection of thoughts that float through my mind.
Do I need to plug in my charger from my computer? Probably, or
yeah. I mean, why
Okay.
are you asking me that question as if I'm your technical guru?
Well, I just wondered how much longer, because I got a little bit of battery.
Are you tired of talking on this podcast?
I'm running. I have 6% remaining.
You need to plug in. Come on.
Okay, let me turn off my video real quick, and then I will be right back. Keep talking. You can keep talking.
Right now, listeners, I will just do a quick plug again to remind you that if you have not, we encourage you to go visit bit.ly/The Lunar Garden to order our latest book. That is a way that you can support us. It is all the things that we enjoy, and we are both enjoying using our copies. So just feel free to check that out. I will pull up really quick to show you all. We have some of our first comments on our YouTube channel, so that's exciting. If you haven't, you can go over there. You can see us right now. Thank you to our 15 subscribers. We appreciate you all. But we are starting to get some commenters. So I'm actually going to pull up one of our most recent videos. So stop self-sabotage. I wanted to actually look and see because there was a comment. However, when I clicked on these, I feel like this isn't a real comment, it's spam. And it takes you to like a thing that says beautiful women. So we appreciate the compliment, but we are not those type of podcasters. If you are looking for performers or sexy videos, so to speak. So Kara's coming back in now. There she is. She's back on. I've been talking about one of our first comments on our YouTube channel, and I was explaining that it was a redirect for like, you know, sexy girls and beautiful women. I'm not going to click on it, but clearly it's spam. But I said
I had to switch over to my my phone because when I plugged my charger in, it made my computer die for some reason. So don't know what that's about. Am I on camera?
Yeah, you are. Oh yeah, I can see your bedroom right now.
Oh,
you should flip it around.
Oh wait, you can see my actual bedroom.
Now I can see your face.
Okay.
Yes. So Kara's back. But yeah, this was one of our first comments from a one Susan Anderson. Pretty sure it's a spam account, but when I clicked on both of those things, clearly it's a compliment because she thinks we're beautiful women, but pretty sure we're not that type of women that she's looking for. Like, we don't really do the sexy movies and stuff, if you get my drift. So that's that comment. We really don't, I mean, Jamel, again, who we've shouted out, thank you, because she has been consistently engaged, and I know she comments on if she would pass her sage or not on some of these. Is Brittany's dad holding her hostage? That was actually, we had some comments on that. Oh, okay. Oh, we got a couple. Okay. So Jamel passed her sage to dad and Brittany. She needs it too. Somebody liked that comment. Oh, we liked that comment. And then I said, okay, thanks for weighing in. And we have another comment. I not light. I don't know who that is, but thank you. And this person says, can we call 911 for her? The dad should be in prison for 12 years like Brittany is. And we just responded, something to consider. Let me be clear. I responded, something to consider. But thank you. I mean, we're like, that's exciting to me. We at least have some comments. I know one of them spam, but that's okay. So anyways, if you haven't subscribed, you can come over to YouTube. But I was just doing that while we were waiting for Kara's technical snafus to get rectified, because I had wanted to go look at some of the comments we were getting. But I wanted to add, like, I'm trying to think of what we should pivot to, because I know that Rachel Hollis conversation was just it was a bit heavy. But why don't I ask you this? I kind of wanted to ask about COVID brain, and if that's a thing.
I feel like I have it, but I don't know for sure.
And I don't even say it in the respect of how some people say that who have had COVID. I say it like in general. I have had so many conversations with people in the past couple of months that in 2021, we are seeing like the easing up and things that are, maybe there's new cultural norms being created. Like, I don't think it is like, we've talked about all that, like, quit saying, let's go back to normal. I don't think that normal, quote unquote, the normal wasn't necessarily great. Like, it wasn't necessarily good. So why do we want to go back to systems and things that we know aren't inclusive and aren't working? But what I really want to talk about is this whole idea of like time, because I have talked with so many people, and it's not just me, because there's a part of me, and I think I said this to you, Kara, a few weeks ago, like, is this just what it feels like to get old? Because it'll be like, I will talk with somebody and it'll seem like, okay, simultaneously, it feels like no time has gone by. It could be like 2 months maybe. And then it'll also feel like 10 years went by.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's this weird, almost like we're in a time warp because of the world kind of being shut down for a while with quarantine stuff. And there's been so much uncertainty. So I just wondered your thoughts, even from like a medical and healthcare perspective. Do you think that that's a thing? And is it related to like collective trauma and mental health?
I don't think I hear people talking about this as a feeling, like how we're feeling, but I haven't heard any like research or actual medical experts talking about it. Now, COVID brain in general definitely is a thing for people who have had COVID, but I get what you're saying. Like, we're in this collective time warp of really abnormal happenings going on in the world, at least with our limitations and what we can and can't do and that kind of thing. So yeah, I would agree. Like, things that happened a year ago feel like I can't even, it's like another lifetime.
Yes,
like it almost feels like there was a split, a departure from like our lives, and almost like this is like that was like a different
era.
time,
We're starting a new world. We're starting a new world.
It's just, it is a very bizarre situation. But as far as like, yeah, I don't know. I don't think people know how to talk about it. I work for a large health organization, which many of you know, I'm a nurse. And I Yeah, I don't even think like our health organization or any health organization knows how to address it. They're just trying to like move on all of a sudden because it seems like the thing to do. But I keep drawing back to the idea that like, as far as the nurses that I work with, I think people like want to talk about how they're feeling and want to process, but there isn't really being there's not room being made to allow for that. And so I think we are in this really tough time of like, okay, we're probably doing a lot of damage by just like plowing ahead and not
Right.
recognizing
Not
that
creating the space.
people,
Like, people know it's an
everybody
issue,
has
but
been
they're not
deeply
creating the
impacted.
space. Yes.
Right.
They know
Right.
it's an issue, but they're not creating the space. And then they're getting back into these same old routines of being on a hamster wheel. But then on top of it, you're piling whatever emotions and mental health things, like you're piling all that on it and not addressing it. You're just, like
Right.
you said, you're just trying to bulldoze forward. Like, let's just get this vaccine knocked
We're
out.
gonna
Let's
go
just
back. We're gonna go back to
Yeah.
how it was. We're just gonna keep going.
get busy
And we
and
were
work.
shown so many times through the pandemic, there are other ways to do things. We have to be more evolved in our ways of thinking about like more effective ways of doing things. Even in my job, like I have adopted a lot of things that are a carryover of the pandemic, of things that were actually better for me in my routine with my daily work, that I'm keeping. Like it was good and it was meaningful to change those habits, like out of force in that instance, but also like, let's talk about why certain things didn't work and why we feel this need to like cling on to something that is a distant memory of normalcy. That's just not
or with
like,
super
we live in a
harmful,
totally different world now, I feel like.
or practices in language that were super harmful.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and I think people are having a fit about the wokeness movement and like, which I would agree, some of it is extreme and some of it is really hard to understand because it's like too much
What
too
do you
soon.
mean? What do you mean when you say the wokeness movement?
I just mean the whole there's a lot to unpack right now for
Yeah.
everybody.
Right.
And so when you're talking about certain things that you can and can't say now, people are either bucking the system and being like just trash, like because they can, and they're just trying to say, I don't care, I'm going to do what I want, say what I want, live how I want, whatever. And guess what? That is probably not the best thing for your neighbors, family, and friends.
Right.
For you not to have any consideration whatsoever to their feelings, needs, emotions. So maybe if you're seeing some pushback in that regard, that's why, because it's very selfish.
Right.
Okay. But I also can see where those people are very overwhelmed by the amount of relearning that needs to
unlearning.
occur.
It's
Unlearning. Yes.
Yeah. It's that
Unlearning.
slap in the face of like, wait a minute. This isn't the true story of America, or wait a minute. And I'll speak specifically for not only Black Americans, but people of color that fall under that umbrella, or minoritized populations. This has been a long time coming, and it's been these are not new concepts. If you look at even some of like Howard Thurman's writings, right? The Jesus and the Disinherited. I think I referenced that book on our last episode, and it's one of my favorite texts, but he was prolific. He wrote it in 1949. And when you read the contents of texts like that, you had people who were fighting against oppressors. And sometimes that can even be within our own realms, right? Like as Latinos, we can do that to each other. Even people within the Black community can do that to each other. Like there are multiple forms and levels of oppression that occur in societies, period. And it is often stemming from selfishness and evil, obviously. That's been since the dawn of man, right? So like that, to your point, if you're a person who says, I just want things to go back to quote unquote normal, yes, this could possibly feel very overwhelming at times for you, to be slapped with the reality that there's been so many people that have died from COVID, and or just death has been at the forefront. I think grief in a lot of ways has been at the forefront in the past year, of people having to come to terms with the fact of who people really are to their core. People who choose to be outspoken about supporting Blue Lives Matter or the Thin Blue Line or things like that with police, as opposed to standing up and saying, no, Black lives do matter. They've always mattered. And we've never rectified the sins of the father, so to speak, in this country. And so I think when you look at all those things, exactly what you're saying is true. And we also need to continue to work together very hard to heal those things and to reconcile those things, but that you can't get to healing and reconciliation unless, to your point, people are willing to create the space to sit in that discomfort and work through it.
Right. Well, and I think too, part of the problem is people feel like they're being controlled by some like external force or new way of thinking or whatever, which I would just challenge people to say, no, actually, like Justine and I are sitting here talking to you all and to each other, like we're trying to understand each other on a daily basis, right? So we can paint with a broad brush of what correct terms are to use or what terms not to use. We could say, like, this is appropriate in this situation, this is not appropriate anymore to say this or act in this way. But the bottom line is being connected to the people that you're connected to, whether it's through work, whether it's personal life, whether whatever, our obligation as humans is to, and Justine does so much of this in her work with equity, like you have to know the person sitting in front of you before you can really accommodate their needs. And not that you have to be a pushover and be trying to please everybody every time, but like I want to know when I walk in a room that I am being kind to people, that people are receiving my love and affection and attention in a way that is good for them. Right. And when that's not the case, I also need to know that because it's important. So trying to look at the world on this really broad scale, yeah, that's super overwhelming and probably is not a good idea for most people to do. Now, if you're in a place like, Justine is working in the DEI space, she kind of has to look at the world in that really broad, like, okay, what's kind of the trend of what's going on or whatever. But for the average person who is not working in that space, like we just need to look at the human across the table from us and make sure that we have right relationship with them, whatever that means. So I can say certain things around certain people that would offend other people if they heard me say it, but like Justine and I could talk about it, and that's going to be like, that's our way of communicating with each other. We know that we are loved in this relationship, we know that we are cared for, and that both of us have the best interest of the other at heart. Now, when you're going about in a global pandemic and you're openly communicating you're not going to wear a mask because you don't give a flying flip about people around you, you just want your individual rights and freedoms, those kind of messages that are being sent out from you, like those will hit myself in a certain way because I'm a nurse in healthcare. Those will hit Justine in a certain way because she is in the DEI space and works with people who the pandemic has affected more so than maybe the people that are saying
people who have
they're not
personally
going to
died too.
Yeah.
Or been seriously hospitalized and on their deathbed. We probably all have.
So the context of like your rationale for wanting to continue to perpetuate certain narratives. Right. What is that context? Why do you need that? Why do you need to feel like you have the right narrative when clearly some things and some choices of our words and actions can affect different people differently. Right. So like just being conscientious and aware that it's important. Like you have,
But if
like
you
you can't move
haven't-
about in the world. You can,
if you haven't created the space,
you can, but maybe stick to yourself a little bit more. I
right?
don't know. Like you're
But if
actively
that-
out to harm other people if your narrative's the only one that matters. I guess is
Correct.
what I'm saying.
And to your point, if you have not consistently created this space to be introspective, you won't just be self-aware naturally. Like, that's humans. You have to work hard to become self-aware. And I wanted to also clarify, when you said I watch global trends, I'm not like, that doesn't mean like pop culture necessarily.
No.
That means like cultural patterns and how things are progressing in different arenas and all around the world, and what that means and how it impacts the United States, the progression of cultures in general to move forward. But and how do you also activate cultural healing on a broader scale, and what does that really look like? And a lot of it looks like, I can actually, because I'm aware of myself and I'm comfortable within myself and who God made me to be, I'm also going to be able to sit across from a person and be able to look at them and see them as human, and see that, okay, they're upset about something or whatever. Now, I will say, on the same flip side of that, going back, I think it's twofold for how we consistently move forward, no matter the topic, no matter the realm that we are seeking healing or progress in, or evolution as a people, meaning humans on earth. Then I think it goes back to two things. That self-awareness piece. Are you willing to put in the time and effort to become more aware of who you are, and how maybe sometimes if you say something, it could come across? And then the accountability. So just because I might be able to see you as human and I can empathize, or my heart can go out to you, like if I'm doing a training and I know somebody's crying or it hits them a certain way, I'm going to follow up. And as a human, I'm not going to apologize for holding you accountable for the words you used. And I'm the trainer. I'm expecting you to learn from that. If I don't point out, hey, when you said XYZ, that was an example of a microaggression. If I don't do that, then you don't learn. And that's not me being authoritative and saying like you can or cannot do this. It is me observing a behavior or language, not the person themselves. But then on the same token, I can also say, are you okay? I noticed you had a hard time keeping it together, right? Like that's that piece. I think that's the thing I'm trying to break down here, Kara, for listeners, is it's not just one. It's not just somebody telling you what to do or say. You have to actively commit and also be engaged in wanting to further your faith, right? Further your understanding of social justice, further your understanding of fill in the blank. You have to first be committed to your own self-awareness and understanding who you are, and then also be okay with that accountability piece. I think those are the two consistent ingredients, no matter the realm or whatever we're talking about, that you have to be committed to if you actually do want to become more inclusive and more loving towards people who are different than you are.
And if you find yourself in a space where you're triggered by the words social justice or progressive, or you use those as insults towards other people, I would just challenge listeners to think about, in the realm of love, which we are commanded as, if you're a Christ follower or a Christian or identify yourself that way, we're commanded to love God, love others, right? And so if we can sit across a table from somebody, maybe even serve them food, have conversation, be in communion with them, and we're sitting there in the first place, that's an expression of love, right? But if we're going to sit there and plug our ears when they begin to talk about things that we don't understand or we don't have a frame of reference for, but they do, that's their story. But if I just go, oh, okay, you put this meal in front of me, you're sitting here showing me love, you're talking with me, and then I hear something that I just can't, I don't understand it. And I just go like this. And I go, what? What?
Right.
What?
Right.
That's what that's like.
And the other piece of that is that, like, I think that's pretty much within any, even beyond Christianity or Western Christianity, Kara, pretty much any religious practices or spiritual realm. Like if you're a spiritualist or transcendentalist or a humanist, however you call yourself, you like, that's pretty much a core teaching of being compassionate and loving. Like that's not only even in Christianity. Like that's pretty
Here's
much
my
in any
thinking.
doctrine you're gonna find.
Here's my thinking on that too. If you have such faith in the higher power, if you have such a relationship with that higher power that is supposed to give you the light to shed into the world, to be that love, why on earth would it affect you in any way, shape, or form to hear somebody else's story and say, wow, that's really like, that's not my experience, but thank you for sharing that with me, because I'm going to think of things a little bit differently when I do XYZ, or when I see this person in the street, I'm going to think of it a little differently because I have their context now. It's not a matter of judgment or the fear. What I think is going on is people are like questioning their faith in a way that they won't admit it. They're
could be
like, they're having all these internal questions, and it's like, no, I got to stay firm. I got to keep all this stuff out. It can't infringe on my box. It can't, like, if it infringes on my box is going to break. And then what the hell am I going to do?
right.
Like, that's
and there's also a lot of fear, right? Like even if you, for example, news media, right? How is Africa or African countries painted in U.S. news outlets? Which is not the truth. And
poor
the
little
whole,
orphans,
right? And that's not even
food every month.
So like even that as a raw example, legitimately, even if you look at the percentage of Americans who actually have been traveled internationally beyond Mexico with their passports, I think it's something crazy like maybe 9 or 10%. So it could, because a lot of people, and again, that's okay if you don't like to travel, maybe you don't like to fly over water, whatever. We're not bashing you as a person if you hear that and you get triggered. It is really that concept of being scared of what you don't know. And that is actually where prejudice and racism and misogyny, like all these things that we've gotten ourselves into as humans, because we've also created the constructs to categorize people. Let's remember, even in the Bible, I'm still like, if you look at, I don't think I'm saying it correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, Kara, but like the idea of somebody who was not binary, the eunuchs, who are revered, is still in Indian culture, right? Medical term, hermaphrodite, right? But like even things like that, where from you look at a gender perspective, or people want to have all these conversations about being transphobic or homophobic, like, but these were not even labels. Like they were divine. I mean, read in the Old Testament, eunuchs were like still heralded as very divine, and
they were like angelic.
They were angelic. Yes. And so that's the other piece when all this comes into play, and you go, yeah, and it was us as humans who made these boxes of race, ethnicity, blah, 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 gender, even gender. Like those are man-made constructs. So I mean, biologically,
constructs are made to use other people, period.
Correct. And control in some level who's coming into a country, or who exists in a country, or what are our socioeconomic levels, or who has access to things, or what
are our roles as men and women.
Correct. So it's
and what happens if we don't follow those?
It's a very intentional structure that gets repeatedly like infiltrated into religious doctrine and religious tradition. So anyways, all that to say, like I think there's a multitude of factors, but again, if you're a person who you have never really traveled or wanted to listen to other perspectives, like you were modeling with your hand in your ears, even though we will give lip service to it in like a religious setting of like, yeah, we really want to care about people and love people. Caring about people and loving people, I think, is pretty simple, but requires you to actually give a damn. Like,
And
if
actually,
if
I can give
don't,
you
and you sit there going,
Yeah.
oh, I would never travel there. It's so dangerous or whatever. And you've already made up your mind. That's where it's a different issue of pure defiance. And then I do have no choice but to go, okay, well, you're just a closed-minded person. And you really think your perspective is the only really like lived experience that matters.
Well, and we can say for ourselves during this last year, especially, we've been shown the writing on the wall about a lot of people in our lives who, the minute we started talking about issues that were important to us,
and they always
because
have
of our
been.
background, and they always have been, but we started talking about them. I particularly started talking about them more vocally, because guess what? Now or never, because this is like, things came to a head, and spiritually so, right? And
Right.
so we began talking about those things, and the people who claimed love in Christ claimed to love us in Christ, right?
Right.
Claimed to be brothers and sisters in Christ, and blah blah blah. Well, they want to put their fingers in their ears, and many people have just completely ended relationships. We haven't had that from people outside the church, let me tell you. Okay, we've so all that to say, if you're speaking this message of love and you're talking about caring about other people's points of views and how to really care for people and nurture people, the way to do it is not to put your fingers in your ears when somebody starts saying something that you don't like because you don't understand it.
Well, and
Take a minute to understand, or try to understand. We are not scary people, but apparently some of these ideas are so triggering and so out there that people can't even stand to listen.
Because it's also, it goes back to the control aspect too. It needs to be my way or not anyway. And I'll use a pop culture example for this, because this is also something people have probably heard about, right? You'll remember a couple years ago, I think it's historically the top grossing song in history. Okay. Featured a little guy named Billy Ray Cyrus, so it was acceptable, right? Lil Nas X, Old Town Road. Everybody remembers it. Okay. A couple years ago, Lil Nas X comes on the scene. He's killing it, and he's figuring out ways to navigate, but it was also acceptable because he did it with Billy Ray Cyrus and blah blah blah. Now the kid's growing up, right? Stepping out on his own. I believe he's probably early 20s. I think he's over 21. But at the time, he was still somewhat of that, like, oh, everybody loves this song. It's relatable to everyone. Kids are listening to it, everybody. Okay. Now, so this perspective comes from a podcast we listen to sometimes called Dirty Rotten Church Kids. So, hey, Dirty Rotten Church Kids. But they really unpack this in their most recent episode. And I had been unpacking it from afar because I was fascinated. And I've always been kind of like, again, I like to follow certain Gen Z kind of icons, so to speak, cultural icons, so to speak, because I find the stories fascinating. Well, I believe he grew up somewhere in Georgia. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure he had a pretty staunch, like, religious evangelical upbringing. Okay. He's openly gay. Now, so what does he decide to do? This is what transpired a couple weeks ago, and the whole Christian evangelical world was just in an uproar about this. Lil Nas X releases a song, and the music video, he gives the devil a lap dance, but then the premise is he snaps his neck. He kills him. He kills the devil. He releases it leading up to Good Friday and Easter. And he also releases a black and red shoe, 666 pairs of them, not actually endorsed by Nike, but they sell out within 2 minutes and they become collector items. And so the evangelical community, you see statements from other Christian artists saying, you're playing with fire. We will not stand for this, blah, blah, blah. He's laughing about it. And you see this progression. First of all, I think he's a marketing genius. But you see tweets like, so y'all thought it was cool and you wanted me to be a role model when I had on a sequined cowboy hat, but now you don't think I'm okay because I don't fit into what you want me to be or what you thought I was or what you wanted me to be. And I was never your kid's role model, and you never should have been looking at me that way as like, oh, he's clean or blah, blah, blah. But now you have an issue with the fact that I'm living my life and out there. So his whole purpose and what you see happen on display with these comments and threads and people speaking out against Lil Nas X, he proved the point, which was y'all preached at me that I was going to hell. And you can have a video from the 80s or 90s, right? These Christian rock bands, they were all about what were they about? There's literally a video, and this is what Dirty Rotten Church Kids talk about. Like, remember the lame Christian rapper called Carmen? Yeah, like in the 80s, the 80s, 90s. He legit had a music video where he, like, I think either took a sword or shot the devil in it. And so you guys cheered it. You cheered it. The church loved it. What were they beating into purity culture youth group kids' heads like us? Well, you can listen to Carmen, but you can't listen to XYZ artists. You can listen to this person because it's this. How is it any different? And Lil Nas X, I truly believe he did it all to prove a point to the church, and even the time release of when he released it, because he's mad and he's proving the point of,
he said that you
didn't have an issue. I love God, and you had an issue with how I went about killing the devil in my music video. But
no, I think,
but like that. So that was an interesting perspective. Again, go find them if you want to hear their full perspective. But I just thought it's very insightful of him in a lot of ways. And you can take it however you want, or you can say I'm crazy, but I think he knows exactly what he was doing. And he's talked about it.
I also think that he was incredibly injured by the church.
Yes, exactly. That's why
he was just saying, if you're telling me I'm going to hell, so hey, like,
he slides down he pulls,
and then what else happens?
Slides down the pole into hell, and he ends up killing the devil.
But what happens though is the church turns around and condemns him.
Yep.
Which is what he's just saying in the first place.
Exactly.
Like, you never loved me in the first place because you think that my gayness and my homosexuality is not of God. And so you don't love me no matter what. I'm going to prove a point to you.
Yep.
And now you're just living out what I said was going to happen. Yep. You are showing to be the unloving people that you are as a collective in this moment.
Because it's not with the exact person or tone that you wanted, even though essentially the concept of the video is exactly the same as the Carmen video.
Yeah. And
they praised it and loved it if it was this person. So it goes back to that picking and choosing. Like, I will accept you if you live your life exactly like how I think is acceptable.
Yeah. Well,
and again, where does that usually come from? No, somebody else telling you their own projections or their own interpretations, instead of you creating the space for introspection and the self-awareness development, which is really hard work. And then also being willing to be accountable for, how am I speaking to people? How am I treating people? How am I living out these things? So, I don't know if I even like specifically plan to talk about that, but it made sense to me to bring it up because it goes back to what you're saying. Like, you can only resist so long before, like you said, I think the veil has been taken off, and it's like, no, but you said this was okay over here. So what are you really saying?
No, the bottom line is you can't navigate it according to anybody else's standards. And that's why, like, for me in my personal life, my relationship with God is number one. And like,
praise God, baby.
So it requires that introspection with God, but also within yourself.
Yep.
Like Justine is saying, because if you don't have any introspection and you're waiting for God to like hit you with a lightning bolt of Holy Spirit, like, that's not a thing. It's not a thing.
Well, I would disagree with that. It can be a thing, but that would also require you really, really deeply.
If you don't
on
know
the
how to
daily,
connect,
connecting
no.
with God and connecting with
If
yourself.
you don't know and identify that as like the Holy Spirit, it's not a thing.
Oh, I see. Okay, I see.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yes. Right. If you don't even think, like, for example, if you're rigid in your religiosity to the point where it's not about being spirit led,
it's about what you do, the number of prayers
I
you
go
have, the
and
number
I make
you go
sure
to
I take
church, blah, blah, blah.
communion.
I look like this, I look like
Right,
that, whatever. I wear I wear sleeves on my little shoulders so that men aren't tempted by my beauty. That kind of thing. If you're given to that and you're actually not being led by the Holy Spirit, then that's a problem.
Yeah. Well, we've really been full circle today. It's been great catching up. There's so many things I didn't like get to that are on this question list. Obviously, they're going to be running, but again, listeners, you can also call in with types of questions like this. But I'd like to know, like, actually, if you do call in or comment, could you please throw out 2 names? Because I would like us to start asking this question. I told Kara, I want to ask a question about, like, who would you have coffee with? This person or this person, if you got the chance and it was between these 2 people. So either call in or comment or DM us like 2 names of people that you think would be exciting to actually meet in life and like have coffee with. And then we'll break it down like who we would choose. But I don't have any off the top of my head. That was just something I wanted to explore. But I think I have one final question, and it is this. It's more of a cultural question because I noticed when I was walking in Chicago the other day, a person with an iPhone, and they didn't have a case like mine. Like, I still have a Droid and I have a protective case like this. It's actually a dual screen. So when I text, though, I became acutely aware because she was standing at the crosswalk going, and I thought, do most people text with both of their thumbs?
I do.
I only text with one of my thumbs.
How?
Because I have this, and so normally when I'm typing, it's just like,
do you
this.
swipe?
I'm holding the phone. No.
Do you?
No, I have really fast fingers.
No, I go both.
I never use both thumbs to text.
That's weird. I think that's weird.
Well, that's what I was trying to find out.
Let us
Is
know.
that weird?
I think a lot of people swipe.
You said let us know.
Like with this finger, like their index finger, I think they go like that. But I can never get
with the
words
keyboard.
to spell right.
Yeah, I've never been into that. But I only use one thumb with this phone. And I think I've been that way for years because I normally have a case.
I feel like you're going to have a crooked finger. You're going to have one that's like this and then one that's like normal, you know?
I think they both look fine.
Okay.
A little short because they're small, but yeah, that was just a random like cultural question I had. And I think it used to be more prevalent, obviously, with like BlackBerry and stuff, but I've never really typed with both thumbs.
That's very strange. I think we'll find out.
Yeah, so leave it in the comments. Make sure you hit subscribe so you get notified. We definitely don't bombard you with content. Like, we release this twice a month, like we said. Our ultimate goal is really just to share transparently our journeys and what we would normally be talking about. We just decide to hit record and put it out there. It's a good challenge for us. So it's been great. Thank you all for tuning in. Make sure you check out our latest book that we talked about. And you can follow Kara at Glam Gourmet Home, and I am at Spiritually Strategic. Both of us are on Instagram, and we would love to connect with you there. So until next time, bye, sister.